and welcome to our very first official podcast, our very first official recording of Carry Out Conversations. I am John.
I'm Dave.
And I'm Noah.
And we are so glad to have all of you guys listening in. We want to thank you for anybody who's listening in to us. Kind of talk about ourselves just a little bit as far as our show. We are three guys that like to eat and talk. And that's basically what we do. That's the reason for Carry Out Conversations. We order carry out food, we sit down, we eat, and we discuss general topics. It's not necessarily going to be food related. It's not necessarily going to be political related. It's going to be just whatever we feel like talking about.
I am interested in the politics of food. I think that it's an underappreciated topic. And yeah.
Well, some of us are Haagen-Dazs Republicans, and some of us are not. Yeah. We that's kind of an inside joke for anybody else not in the room. But again, we are so glad to have you guys here. Again, this is just something that we really like to do. We like to talk to each other. We've kind of how it all started. We were sitting down on lunch one day and just kind of brought up a topic, and then we decided to carry it a little bit further and talk about more things over dinner, and then it just kind of evolved into this.
Kind of blossomed, yeah.
Now we're married.
Brother wives, I think's how it is, or is it brother husbands now that we're
Brusbands?
Brusbands.
Yeah,
I don't know about that one either.
I sure hope not.
Yeah, that's kind of odd.
Yeah.
But again, we are so glad to have all you guys here with us, listening in. And to kind of get started, we were talking about food and things like that. Today we got Subway, and Subway is a very good way of basically knowing exactly what you want, because you can go in and you sit there behind the little sneeze screen, and you get to tell them like, this is what I want on my sandwich, and this is what I want. But have you guys ever gone in to Subway or any other restaurant and it be like what you normally order isn't there anymore? I remember going to Taco Bell the day that they stopped carrying the Mexican pizza. And when I say that a 34-year-old, 260-pound man started crying in the drive-through lane, I was that man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the part of that story that makes me sad is that the Mexican pizza did that.
Yes.
'Cause that's the worst menu item.
No, but see, it was so good. It was so good.
The Crunch Wrap is better.
I missed the Wet Burrito. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah, it's what my dad used to
That was
get.
one I never got. I never got that one.
It looked gross to me. Burritos shouldn't be wet. They should be a burrito.
That is true. Now, there are some good wet burritos.
Okay.
But wet food is just...
Yeah. Okay, so that's one of the things that I don't understand is I've tried things that taste great, but the texture is weird.
Yes.
Like, for example, hummus. Hummus tastes...
I love hummus.
Okay, it's because you're a psychopath. So hummus tastes...
I'm not denying it.
Hummus tastes great, and you can do almost anything with it. You can
True.
add a ton of spices to it. There's different types of hummus. You can put carrots in it. You can put chips in it. You can put whatever in it. You can put steak in hummus, like whatever. You can do anything with hummus. The problem is, it tastes like baby food. The texture of it is awful. I cannot stand hummus. Because it doesn't have the texture of a spread. It's right in between like potatoes and mayo.
Is there anything in between potatoes and mayo?
Yeah, hummus. That's what I just said.
I guess. I'm not the type that likes hummus.
It's a paste. It's a chickpea paste.
So paste is like what medicine is and what like you brush your teeth with. The word paste is not
true.
No one hears the word paste and it's like, what an appetizing thing.
Could you imagine hummus flavored toothpaste?
I'd be down with that, actually.
Would you really?
Well, as long as my teeth get clean, you start your day with some hummus.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I believe there was an Adam Sandler movie where that happened.
Don't mess with the Zohan.
Yeah. He literally used hummus on his teeth.
That's the second most racist movie ever.
I don't know that I've ever actually paid attention to that movie. I own the movie, and I don't even think I've really watched it.
Okay.
I don't know that I've really watched it. I just remember that one scene.
So his superpower in that movie is he literally can kick you with both feet. while like standing straight up. So they'll like cut to a different shot, and it'll be him like levitating, and he'll slap you with both feet, and yeah. So yeah, that's the second most racist movie ever. The first being Transformers.
Why? Why?
Okay, so the question is, how do I walk through this?
I think I know what you're talking about.
The ice cream trucks.
Yes, the ice cream trucks.
Have I told you about this before?
No, but that has
Okay.
been a very discussed topic about the Transformers movies.
Okay, but not just that. So for example, like so you have the main cast of humans, the soldiers, who do nothing because they're shooting giant robots with human bullets, and it does nothing.
Well, yeah.
But
It makes themselves feel good.
well, yeah, and the movie makes you want to think they're doing something because they'll like run around and there's explosions, but they're doing nothing, like
Right.
literally doing nothing. But so it's a super stereotypical cast. So you have like the white guy and he's the leader, and you have the black guy who always does like a Samuel L. Jackson like whatever catchphrase, and then you have the Mexican guy who doesn't speak English well and nobody respects him.
Yes.
And I don't know why that second part is a stereotype, but apparently it is.
Well.
And then there's like the nerdy dude who like he does all the computer stuff, and they don't do anything.
But is that really racist though? Because it's
Well,
like it's stereotypical. Yeah.
No, but they really sink into it,
Mhm.
like, and it makes it weird, and you feel how weird it is, like, yeah, and then but with the two Transformers, the ice cream trucks, they like, so it's a racist stereotype
Mhm.
that black people are uneducated because during slavery they weren't allowed to read. The vast majority of the black population couldn't read.
Right.
Well, so there's a scene in Transformers where there's like this ancient Transformer language,
Mhm.
and they ask the two ice cream robots, who are speaking very ghetto and in a very like African American modern way of speaking,
Right.
or a dramatized form of that. And they're like, reading? We don't do much reading.
Yeah.
And it's the best movie ever.
Went from the most racist movie to the best movie.
Yeah, well, yeah, because when you watch it as a kid, you're like, oh, haha, silly.
Yeah.
You miss all the jokes. And then you rewatch those movies as an adult, and you're like, these movies are messed up. Like, I should not. Like, there's so many times where you go back and watch things from your childhood, and you're like, why was I allowed to watch this? And it's only because you're too focused on like the flashy colors when you're a kid to notice.
Yeah. I didn't get to watch any of that stuff until I was older because I was old before it came out. So, I mean, I picked up on all of the things that you're talking about, but I tend to block them out because I'm the type that like I will watch a movie and I'll watch it the first time and I'll pay attention to it, and then after that it's background noise to me.
No.
Yeah.
No, that means you can never enjoy rewatching a movie.
No, there are so the exception being Beauty and the Beast. The original, the animated Beauty and the Beast. That I can watch and I can pretty much quote all the time. So, yeah, I know we're getting off topic, severely off topic.
Wait, we had a topic?
We
do
have
now.
a topic. Yeah, we do now. Transformers, everybody.
Beauty and the Beast.
And Beauty and the Beast. Hey, Gaston. So, I do want to ask Dave a question.
Uh-oh.
Because it kind of leads into our topic. What would you do if suddenly hummus just disappeared? Like, you say you love it, but what would happen if you just disappeared and everybody's like, it's no longer a thing, get over it?
I would miss it.
You could make it.
Well, what if you couldn't?
Yeah, what if the chickpea went extinct, I guess, would be.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you do like a Taken, where you like call the like hummus CEO and you're like, I will find you.
And I will grind you.
What?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
What?
Maybe not.
I was talking about the chickpeas, people.
But
chickpeas.
they're extinct.
Yeah, I don't think that would be his fault if chickpeas went. I mean, maybe.
It would be. He wants to retire.
Sure.
So what's the point of this analogy?
So the reason why I ask that is it does lead me to think about our topic for today, and that is, what is the new normal? We lived in a society where, as a the human race kind of, I don't like to use the word evolve because I don't like the word, but for the lack of a better word that I can think of, as a society evolves in the way that we transform ourselves from one type of generation to the next, we start to change things in the way that we live. And it makes me think about some of the stuff that I grew up with as a child, that, you know, Noah being quite a bit younger than I am, didn't realize back then.
Mhm.
It's something that's not a thing anymore. And, you know, and Dave's just a little bit younger than I am, and there are things that I grew up with that Dave may not have seen. And it leads me to think about stuff like that, as where we are as a society. And so I kind of want to ask you guys a couple of questions, and I want to just kind of talk a little bit about what exactly happened to our society, and the lack of a better sense. And I want to talk about something, first of all, what has changed as a people. There are certain things that we go through that you don't even think about, but it's changed a lot. One thing being our language, the way that we talk to each other. You know, me and Noah had discussed this earlier in just a little bit, but I feel, and I think Noah feels the same way, and I'm not sure how anybody else really thinks about it, but I think as a society, as a people around the world, not just in America, but everywhere, we have devolved in our everyday language with each other. You know, you look at these, the websites and the social medias, and, you know, there's like no cap and facts and, you know, bays, and I know bay is like a couple years old, but, you know, simps and all this other kind of stuff. Like, there's these little slang words for just everyday life, and
I
it's
don't know
weird.
I don't know what half of those mean.
Well, so I know what all they mean. I know all
of course you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing with that too is every era has slang language. The thing that I think our era does different is because of social media, slang develops quicker, and it changes more rapidly, which is why you will literally have people 2 years out of high school not knowing what the heck the freshmen are talking about. And everyone's like, well, yeah, why would you know that? Do you guys ever watch That 70s Show?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, right. So you watch That 70s Show. There's a fairly large age gap between all of us, more than a decade. We all know That 70s Show. You think we all know Seinfeld? Or at least of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
I know of it. I never really watched it.
Right, but you know of Seinfeld, or of, you know, what, or of Friends, or whatever.
Friends, definitely.
Yeah. And Friends may be the exception, but none of these young kids know what That 70s Show is. None of them. Which is weird. And so what catchphrase did everyone pick up from That 70s Show? Burn. Oh, you got burned. That was a burn. Now what do they say? Roasted.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. I remember being a freshman, sitting at the lunch table and being like, oh, dude, that was a burn. And then 2 months later, everyone was saying roasted, and my world fell apart.
Well, the concept of roasting someone has been around a long time, though. Like, a comedy roast is where the quote-unquote guest of honor gets up and a bunch of comedians get up on stage and roast them. They make a bunch of mean jokes at their expense.
Sure.
And that concept's been around longer than we've been alive.
The concept has, but it's the slang, like what it means nowadays. You know, nowadays it's not, you know, it's not just, oh, you said a funny joke towards me. It's, no, I said something that's just going to completely annihilate your self-esteem nowadays. And so, you're roasted. And I mean, it's just, you know, it to me, it makes no sense. Now,
so one of the reasons I think our language has changed so much is because we don't read anymore.
Very true.
And people will say, well, yeah, we do. And there is, I think if you took the amount of info we do read, like per word, it's probably more than most people in the past. Because you're staring at your phone, you're reading articles or memes, You put all those words together, yeah, you got more words. But we're talking about words that are misspelled, written quickly and rushed. We're not talking about literature or like a study that has been like thought out and wrestled with.
Or even properly formed sentences for that matter.
Right, exactly. And I'm guilty of this too, like a lot. I'm awful at grammar. But when I text someone, I don't care if I have a comma in there. I don't care if I even put a period at the end of the sentence. Like, I'm a degenerate as far as that goes. So I think if you had a population that read books again, then you would see a lot of those issues about the limited forms of speech we have go away. For example, I used the term categorically at work the other day, and two of our coworkers were like, "Oh, Mr. College Educated." It's just the word categorically. It's not that big a term. Now, if I said something like supralapsarianism, okay, that is more of a
showing off
thing. Mic drop. All you supralapsarians out there. So that's something of, okay, yeah, that's whatever, more of a pretentious term that only people in X group would know. And every group has those own terms. For example, like Dave, you're an audiovisual guy.
Yeah.
There are terms that you understand that other people outside of that niche don't.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just think that's kind of where the split has happened, is we become a society that reads more but reads less quality.
Well, let me ask you this here, and it kind of touches on what you're talking about. Do you think as a people our attention span is a lot less?
I completely think that. I think that this is kind of a completely different subject, in my opinion, but
okay.
I think not just America, but the whole world is going through what I'm calling a mental health crisis, where we don't even realize that we're unhealthy. So yes, things like ADHD are a lot more rampant. And I know some people would counter argue that, it's been around all this time. It's just more acknowledged now. I don't think that's 100% true. I think that is true to a point. But I do feel that there's a lot more mental illness these days than there was. And again, I do think there was a lot of undiagnosed mental illness, back in the 50s and 60s, but I don't think it was as rampant as it is today, even so.
Well, and I mean, mental health is a big thing nowadays, and I mean, I know a lot of people suffer from it, and a lot of people close to us, anybody that's alive can think of someone that's dealing with a mental health. My thought on it is not just like the mental health side of it, but just as a people, it just seems like our attention span is drawn everywhere else. I don't know if you guys remember, Dave might, I don't know if you're old enough to remember or not, Vine.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. God.
Dude, yeah, my generation made Vine. What are you guys talking about?
No.
You guys were old by then.
Yes, we were very old. But I mean, you think about it, and it's like, what? It was like a 10-second to 30-second video, and that was it. And it was like, as a people, I think we got so accustomed to watching that now when you sit down and you try to watch anything over 30 seconds long, people just kind of glaze over. Like I said earlier, when I'll watch a movie all the way through the first time, uninterrupted, but then after that, it's literally background noise to me. And I mean, it's just, I can sit there and play the same movie over and over again, but I'm not paying attention to it because my mind is everywhere else now.
I think that's called overstimulation, and I think that is a huge problem in today's society. I've noticed it with myself. Say I'll go put on a TV show or put on a movie. Then I grab my laptop and start surfing the web while it's playing. Like, I can't seem to just focus on the one thing anymore.
Right. And that is hard because, everybody has that little computer in their back pocket. I mean, every time you go anywhere, it's like, even older people nowadays, it's, you have a question? Oh, let me pull out my phone and start looking it up. And then 5 minutes later you're pulling up cat videos, like literally cat videos, at times.
Well, and that's kind of why technology has to be viewed as a tool, and we've lost sight of that. Like, people have become intensely emotionally connected to technology. That I think that's kind of weird, is where our eyes are, where our attention is, where our time is, can become what we love, even when we're not thinking about it. And there's been some studies I've read where it's talked about these young kids who grow up using technology. When they get grounded and they take away their phone for a week, they monitored the psychological effect of that. And oftentimes for these young kids, it's the same as if someone in their family passed.
Right.
I mean, it's like really like crazy. And the thing Dave said about mental health, in, for example, in ancient medieval warfare, there is, obviously there's probably some guys with PTSD. There is some extent where it may have just not been noticed, but technology breeds new mental illnesses because it affects our brains in new ways. And so I think it is both. We are less aware because we don't have technology, but also technology is pushing issues forward in a way that's often something we don't understand.
No, it makes sense.
That's terrifying.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because, you think about it, like, and I know there for a little while, back 5-6 years ago, definitely, there was all these talks about, how a nuclear bomb can go off and can disrupt the entire world, and it doesn't actually have to hit the surface. I mean, you could, detonate a bomb a mile above, wherever you want, and take out multiple cities or states. The internet would go down, the power grids and stuff would go down. And it makes me think about, okay, I don't know if either one of you guys ever watched it, but there was a show called Revolution. And it was essentially what I'm talking about. A nuclear bomb went off and the entire world lost power. There was no electricity, there was no internet, nothing, no cell service at all. And it sent people almost back into Western times of, they had to grow their own food. Now they had to learn to survive off the land. They had to learn to, find more ways to entertain themselves. And then it would lead to like war because people got bored and they decided to go, shooting people or whatever. And it makes me think, like, how scary would it really be if we woke up tomorrow and there was no Wi-Fi, there was no internet whatsoever? You wake up in the morning and there was no electricity. Like, what would happen to the world if that was suddenly the thing? And it's like, we've changed to that point so much. I remember when I got grounded, when I would get grounded, my biggest thing is I wasn't allowed to go outside and play basketball. I wasn't allowed to go outside and ride my bike. And, as you mentioned earlier, nowadays it's like, oh, well, here, I'm going to take your phone away from you, or I'm going to take your tablet, or I'm going to turn your Wi-Fi off for, a day or 2 days or whatever. And it's like, we as a people have just devolved in such a way of, we're so dependent on these little things, these little screens and things in front of us, that it's killing us to be kind of short with it.
Right. And so that's the other thing, though, is it doesn't have to kill us. And that's where personal responsibility comes in, because what do we have at our fingertips? The most powerful thing ever invented. And so that comes with danger and also almost endless benefit. So it's really just an issue of how we use it. Now, aside from technology, how society has shifted and how new norms have developed, other than language and technology, are there any other aspects where you guys see that?
where I see like
culture
changed.
shifting. For example, in the last 40 years,
Mhm.
aside from technology and language, which are, I think, inarguably the biggest factors.
Right.
Other than that, how has society changed?
I kind of see one as a big thing of our manners.
Mhm.
There are no manners whatsoever. I mean, we do not teach our kids manners. I remember growing up, and it was illegal in some states. And I know that's like a while back, things like that, but it used to be illegal in some states, and it was considered vile if you swore in front of a woman.
Mm.
You never cursed in front of a woman. And nowadays, there's little 10-year-old girls who know words that I never thought, they would even know to use.
Mhm.
And they use them well, unfortunately.
Mm.
I see that as being a big problem. And I know that kind of goes back to the language thing. But at the same time, the manners of please, thank you, asking somebody for help, or if
Mhm.
they can help, or for crying out loud, holding the door open for somebody walking into a store, and I know nowadays most of them have the automatic doors and stuff like that. So
Sure.
that kind of takes the manners out of it. But it's like, how many times do we go into a store and we're standing there and, you're standing in an aisle and somebody runs into you because they're trying to get around you, and it's just not even a second glance. I mean, it's just,
Sure.
there's, as a people, we are just rude. Just rude.
I think it's because we become more selfish.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Like, selfish popped into my head.
Sure. Well, so the thing is we have an ability in society to tell when manners are fake. Because what is still common is surface level manners.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is, for example, dealing with a customer. There's, they say thank you, even when they're mad at you. Okay, well, that could be legitimate, but oftentimes it's not. It's just you say thank you because you're supposed to say thank you. And people don't really go into situations asking how they can be good to others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a difference between surface level things that we do because we're supposed to do them, and having manners because we see the moral benefit behind those actions. Because I think we have surface level manners. I don't think we have manners that are ingrained in our moral code. And that's the only benefit they have, is when they're coming from a place of conviction and they have true meaning, so that you apply those same standards of manners to people you do and do not like.
Mm-hmm.
So that just makes me wonder. I want to ask you guys, why do you think that is, that society has in general become more selfish in that way, that they don't have the same moral background as, say, our parents did?
Mm-hmm.
I tend to think a lot of that has to deal with just the day-to-day life. One person, and it's, you see those commercials. I remember there used to be a commercial that would go around where one person would hold the door open for somebody, and the person behind them would see it and be like, oh, that's so cool. So then they would go and they would let somebody out, of the parking spot, instead of just like rushing by them. And then the person behind that would see that, and it would, like the little chain reaction.
Sure.
And just like there's the chain reaction for all the good things that could happen, there's those chain reactions of the bad thing. You get one person that just has a bad day, and they come off a little bit too grumpy in the line when their coffee isn't made right. Well, then the person behind that sees that, and so they start having a bad day, and it affects it later on. And then as a society or as a people, we tend to just think like, okay, you know what? From now on, it's just, if I think the worst thing that could be said is, if you want something done right, do it yourself.
Mm.
Because that takes the faith or that takes the hope out of other people, and it makes it where it's selfish of, well, if I'm going to get anywhere in life, it's got to be me. And, and yeah, it is your choices, it's your decisions, things like that. But ultimately, when you start looking out for just yourself, then that's where you start to lose any form of manners towards anybody else. Like you said, the surface manners of the please, thank you, yeah, because that's what you're supposed to do. But when you don't actually mean it, that's when, as a society, we have failed.
Yeah, so the reason I think it's shifted is because you mentioned society a lot there, and I think that's really important, because why did humans do society? To beat the surrounding nature, to succeed against the terrifying condition that is Earth, because nature is pretty metal, you know what I mean? So, as technology increases, but not just technology, but society as a whole increases, transportation, skills are passed down, it gets easier to not die, and we assume, so for example, you're less dependent now for your life on other people than people were, I'd say, even 30 years ago, because you can entertain yourself. You want food, you can order it and just have it sent to you. You don't want to go work somewhere, literally just learn crypto investing, which is fine. I think everyone should do that. Crypto is awesome. I'm not going to bash crypto.
Tune in for Noah's crypto podcast.
Oh,
next
dude,
week.
no, seriously. Become financially independent. Don't let the man know what you're doing next. Seriously, I really do believe that
if we don't know what we're doing next, why should they?
No, seriously. Well, no, because the question is, why should currency... So, currency was originally made by pirates. Like, the earliest form of currency was made by sea traders. Like, they would trade, for example, the islanders, or, like, New Zealanders, islanders. They would trade shells, like, between different islands. And then that's how they would do their trade system. But the people on the island itself would just do barter systems. Governments were not the ones who originated currency, so why do we let governments determine currency now when free trade? Okay, not the point. Okay, but the point I was making was we're getting more selfish because we're more independent of the people. We don't need the people around us as much, or we don't perceive that we do. So in the back of our minds, being as selfish as we are, it's like, the reason we have surface level manners is because I need that for convenience for myself. And the reason you wouldn't have manners is because it's just too inconvenient at that time to care enough about a stranger to say a kind word or just to do a simple gesture. Because the modern person fails because they're so busy contemplating themselves and they don't have anything interesting going on to be thought about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, too. I mean, it's just, it's hard to say that we only care for ourselves. I mean, and I know that, a lot of people can be like, oh, well, all I can do is just watch out for me. All I can do is just, take care of my own. But even the most selfish person in the world will sit there and tell you, oh, I'm not selfish. I think about other people. And it's like, how much do they really think about other people versus how much do they think about what other people can do for them? In a sense, I mean, it's not necessarily, it's like you said, it's what's convenient at the moment. It's what's convenient to help you at the time, not necessarily what could help other people.
Sure.
And that's sad.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, even like, and even like in the service industry, it's not about the customers anymore. It's all about what can I do to get that $30 tip? what can I do to get that $20 an hour for throwing a round circular meat product in a microwave for 10 seconds? I mean, it's all about what could benefit me, not what benefits
Sure.
the people that you're there to help. I mean, we
It's
all
called
three
the
of
service
us,
industry.
exactly, and that's the thing. All three of us, we work in a. No, we are not servers. We don't.
We're not in the food industry.
We are not in the food industry. We
Yeah.
eat food, but we don't. We don't care enough to really like make our food or anything like that.
Here's my question. Did we all at one point work in the food industry? Like that's a question of mine because I don't know.
I have not.
You haven't. Have you, Jonathan?
I've worked in retail. I have not worked in food.
Okay.
So it's interesting that you asked that because in theory, technically, I did not. Now, my family owned a restaurant down south for a little while.
Yeah.
So, as like not child labor laws or anything like that, but as a family, we worked in the restaurant and things like that. But I mean, that was it. Now, as far as like in the now, as I'm older, no.
So my first two jobs were in the food industry. There is no other industry that teaches you how to be fake with people and how to hate your customers. And there's two reasons. One is because when people order food, they're agitated. I don't know why. People are mean when they get food. It's weird.
Unless you're in Chick-fil-A.
True.
They're hangry.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because, that's the thing is sometimes when you go to eat, your stomach is literally hurting because you're hungry.
Right.
So you're desperate for that, double cheeseburger or whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the food industry is just like it breeds some really weird stuff, and it's not all bad. I mean, you meet some cool people, and some customers, like regulars, are sweet and whatever. But you almost grow, and maybe it's just 'cause I'm a jerk, but you almost grow a resentment. For example, I was a cook. I worked at a, American Mexican establishment. Not Chipotle. Not Taco Bell either. So figure it out. Not Del Taco. None of those. There's only one left. And so I remember cooking, and I'd like turn off the grill for the night, and someone would come in and they'd say, "Oh, I want this," and it wouldn't be there, and I'd turn the grill back on. And I remember just hating that person. And they did nothing wrong. They just want food.
Right.
It's really weird how certain industries breed a hatred for customers
But-
when it shouldn't be the case.
But I would argue that some customers are the reason for that because I want to understand the psyche of someone who thinks it's okay to treat service workers like crap.
True.
Right.
True. Yeah.
The ones that yell, the ones that demean, why? Why do you think that's okay?
It's not worth it.
No. Well, and I think also that leads back to what we were talking about as far as like the manners and the mannerisms and stuff like that, of it being just selfish. Of, it's like, yeah, you feel that if you start yelling, you'll get what you want because people, they don't want conflict. We don't want conflict anymore, and I mean, not just say anymore. I mean, I know there are some people that's like, hey, step up, let's go, that type of thing. You say one wrong word and they're ready to throw fists.
I would argue that's because men have to. There has to be some physical something for men to properly order themselves in society, and that's another topic. But like, we do kind of live in a culture where it tells men to be kind of quiet and docile and pretty effeminate in a lot of ways. That doesn't mean the answer to that is being a tool, which is often a lot of guys' responses to that. But yeah, we're non-confrontational. Have I told you my grocery store theory?
No.
Okay. So I love grocery stores because you can do anything in there and no one will care. You can do anything in a grocery store and no one who's not a manager of the store, and most of the time even the managers of the store, they don't care. Because the grocery store is kind of other than like church, it's the one place you go where everyone goes there. And there's like a ton of people, and you're very like, for example, how many times you run into old people, like people from your past in the grocery store all the time, So you go in there, everyone's just there to get groceries. You can do anything, and people are so non-confrontational. They just don't want the trouble And I like, it's an awful thing, but I like to wreak havoc in grocery stores just to see what I can get away with. And nothing bad has ever happened to me.
Mhm.
Ever.
See, that's the type of people that I don't like, though.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You can literally eat the goldfish in mire. No one will stop you. Like, but no, I'm serious. And the point I'm making in that.
Wait, are we talking goldfish or like goldfish?
No, like so they have the like fish tanks in the back of the store.
That's what I was afraid you were gonna say.
You can literally eat the fish, and no one will say anything.
Ew.
I'm not saying you should.
Okay, so sidebar: have you ever done that?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was gonna say
You
that
just
would be
know.
weird.
I have not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I could.
You just
Tune in next
mysteriously
week.
have this knowledge.
Yeah, that's a very specific,
Sure.
random thing.
Well, no. But so the point of I know it was kind of like a tangent, but the point of it was people in society are non-confrontational. That was another thing that changed in society. That was not always the case. For example, if there was someone who was an abuser, someone who hit their wives, and there was a time in this culture where if people around the town heard that you hit your wives, you might disappear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you hit your wife, you might just go missing. And if the cops ask around, nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Maybe, maybe not. I don't have the answer to that right now. But, well, I don't want to share my opinion on that right now because it's pretty controversial. But people were people of action, and now we've been almost sedated by modern society. So what do you guys think about that?
I agree. I vehemently agree. Because we're in that day and time where what we used to think was so fundamental has now been so trivial. Mm-hmm. Like what was it here in the past couple of years? The state of California, they will not pursue a theft charge over $500. Meaning you can literally walk into any store and walk out without paying something that's $449, but you hit that $500 mark, well, then that's when they decide to get serious. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting my tail just ripped for eating a grape that was sitting off to the side of the grape cluster. I mean, it was just something that you just didn't do back then.
He's stealing from the grape cluster. Somebody hit him.
Yeah. No. No grapes. I learned to not like grapes from that, honestly. But, and another one, kind of a side note on this one too, but it led to the same thing. I remember when I was growing up, I grew up in a little private school, little church school, that we were very small, and they would order our lunches in from another school. That's how we got our school lunches. And I remember as a kindergartner, me and my cousin, we would sneak in every day and we would steal the bowl of pickles that they would put out. Because we would have like the hamburgers and things like that. And for the people who remember those types of lunches back then, they weren't like hamburgers. They were like the soy patties, the real nasty type things. And so they would lay out like the lettuce and tomatoes and pickles and stuff like that. It kind of helped spice it up some. Well, me and my cousin would always steal the pickles. And we would run off and we eat them. And we just thought it was a big joke. To teach us a lesson one time, one of these teachers, instead of laying out the pickles, laid out jalapeno peppers. As a kindergartner, I didn't know the difference. So me and my cousin, we go and we sneak off and we grab this bowl of pickles and we start eating it, and our mouths are on fire. And so our teacher's like, oh, that's so sad. Why did you take the pickles and blah, blah, blah. And, we're sitting there crying because our mouths are on fire. And so she tells us, go to the water fountain and take a drink of water. If anybody really knows, when your mouth starts to burn like that, the last thing you do is drink water. You drink milk. We, again, didn't know this. she did that to teach us the lesson not to steal. Now, that is a very harsh way to do it, but I remember that, and ingrained in my mind of you don't just walk up and grab something that's not yours, you know.
And as harsh as that may have been, it wasn't really harmful.
Right.
It hurt.
It hurt at the moment, but it taught us a life lesson.
You just hit the nail on the head with two things. One, the way that modern society approaches food, absolutely abhorrent, absolutely repulsive. But I don't want to get into that because it'll ruin my night. And that could be its own discussion. But what you just said about it didn't harm, but it taught a lesson. People are too quick to not let young people go through hard things and come out stronger. So like Jordan Peterson, who I have multiple disagreements with, he said something once that I really liked, and it was, if you see a young person doing something dangerous, carefully let them do it, but watch them. Yes, be there to catch them. But if there's any way that you cannot let them see that you're there to catch them, because when people are focusing and they're learning how to maneuver and act in society or in a sport or in a job or whatever, you have to not baby them or they'll never mature. And I think there's a lot of people in society now, especially men, who were not given the chance to learn how to struggle on their own, and now they're hyper dependent on the people around them.
As much as I hate to say it, you kind of learn by failing.
Yeah.
Right.
By disappointment, by pain. Oh, if I touch the hot stove, ow. But I know I'm not going to do that again.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. And I mean, as you said before too, it's like nowadays we're to the point where even men, and I say men, you know, we're saying men because we are men. We're not, you know, women. We're not, you know, that type of thing. And it's like, I know women, that could be a whole thing in of itself. But as a man, the thing that breaks my heart the most is seeing a guy changing another guy's tire. I know that's just so simple, and I know that's just so small, but I can't tell you how many times, like, I've seen, like, the younger generation sit there, and they'll sit there and wait on the side of the road for somebody to come and change their tire for them because they weren't taught how to do it.
My vehicle didn't even come with a spare tire. It came with an air compressor and some slime.
And
I don't know how to drive. I know how to change a tire. So no young man has any excuse.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and that's just stuff that again, I think we as a people, we fail ourselves, is because we don't teach the younger generation these things. You know, it goes back to that. It's not convenient for me to teach my child how to change a tire. It's not convenient for to teach my child to use their imagination in a way that's creative yet not harmful. You know, nowadays our you know, conveniency is here's a, you know, an 8-inch screen, go try not to die. And, you know, you see these videos, I mean, you see them on TikTok, you see them on YouTube, and they're these young kids and the younger generation that are, they're going out and they're doing things, and then they're getting hurt and they're laughing about it and things like that. And yeah, that's just kind of the childhood nature in us all. I mean, because how many times have any of us, you know, gone out and done something to really hurt ourselves and just thought it was flat out hilarious? I could tell you stories about that one growing up.
Sure.
But it's just like, we as a society, as a parent, you know, I don't want my daughter to reach up and touch the hot stove. She cooks with me all the time. Like, I teach her how to cook and I teach her how to do things. And, you know,
and I'll bet before you started doing that, you taught her, respect your knives, respect the stove. These things can hurt you. Right?
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like, if after the couple of times of me telling you that pan is hot, don't touch it, after a couple of times of me saying that, if she still reaches out and touches it, I can't say that, you know, as a parent, okay, I tried telling you, you know, that type of thing. And it's like, again, that's how you tend to learn, is because you were told, but yet you failed to acknowledge that.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is a good parent instructs, and then when they fail, they continue to instruct. A bad parent doesn't instruct, and then when they fail, lashes out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the thing, is people often say, well, are bad parents just absent, or are they overbearing? Both. Like, if you see the people who are the worst parents are inactive when they need to be, and they're aggressive when they need to be gentle.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that doesn't mean there isn't time for correction in parenting, because there is.
Yep.
And one of the things that I love about, for example, my father, is when in the moment, I'm like, oh gosh, why was I in trouble for this thing or that thing? It's so silly, you're stupid. Stuff 2 years ago I was upset about. Now I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
That kid was, dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, man, proper parenting goes a long way, and that's something
Mm-hmm.
our society is severely missing.
Yeah.
And honestly, Jonathan, I say this in all honesty, thank you for being a good parent.
Well, I don't even say that I'd be a good parent.
Nobody's perfect, though.
Yeah.
And no parent thinks they are, because parents are harder on themselves than anyone else with that.
Right. And it's so hard as a parent. And I know that's kind of something, that could be a whole topic in of itself.
True.
But it's like being a parent, because you don't know that in between. Like, there is no in between sometimes. It's you want to be loving, but why are you so dumb to do this for the third time after I told you not to?
Mm-hmm.
Or what were you thinking? And I do have to kind of retract just a second. I did not call children dumb, but it's just
the
like
dumb ones.
in the back of your mind. In the back of your mind, you think that any parent really thinks that, even at the times of they're being as loving as possible. I can, I know adults that I think the same thing with adults, that I'm like, okay, I'm trying to be as gentle as possible, but what were you thinking, you moron? And, it's just like, it's so hard to find that in between. And you said something that was super interesting and that really kind of hit of, as a generation, as a society, we are lacking of that proper parenthood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something else that's really changed, is we've gone from, I used to have to pick my own switches. I remember my grandma getting on to me for climbing the fence one day and said, go find a switch. And if I didn't find the right one, she went out and found one. And I'll never forget, a little 4-foot nothing woman, just laying into me, because that's the way we were raised. And nowadays it's like, you can't even mention spanking your child in public without somebody getting offended and somebody, swearing that they're going to call the child protective services.
Well, so you know how you stop that, right?
You start whipping the adults.
Yeah, you spank the people who don't like spanking, and then they'll learn. And you can't say it's an adult. You can't say it's like assault, because how is that going to play in court? It's like, Your Honor, he spanked me. Like, if I'm a judge, you lose that case.
Yeah.
Like, you lose. That's what you get for being spanked as an adult. As long as it's a guy. Yeah, if it's a other gender thing, then that's a different case.
Yeah, well,
but
we won't really get into
that. No,
that.
we won't get into that. The thing that, it's not just bad parenting. What replaced parents for most people?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is government and technology.
Yep. And that was something that I was actually about to see, is like, or about to ask, is what defines these new normals? We talk about, and we talk about like the things that just really didn't, that have changed, but what caused them to change? And you said it right there. Government is one thing, and we're not going to get political. We're not going to start talking about politics and things like that right now. Haagen-Dazs.
Store brand.
But politics really plays a big thing in that. Of, you're not allowed to spank your children now. It's a political thing. It's a government thing now. You can't say certain words out in public because, well, it's politically incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is the media, social media, is a huge thing that plays a part in telling us what we should and shouldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I hate the most is when you find a basketball star that gets paid millions of dollars to play a sport telling me how I should live my life.
Yeah.
I cannot stand that.
Or a punk rock band.
You got to
Or
dunk
punk
on
rock
them.
band.
Dunk on them, and then they'll respect you.
Yes, but me being 5'6",
Cut
trying
their Achilles.
start climbing on
They
their back.
They won't see it coming.
And essentially, and the same thing like with the social media, because social media uses that. Nowadays you've got every superstar that's out there. You got every rock band that's out there. Anybody who's ever been famous is out on these social media websites, and they're telling people this is how you should live. This is what you should do. This is what you shouldn't say, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of folds into Hollywood.
Sure.
As a sense of movies and TV shows telling us what we should and shouldn't do. And, even if it's those little bitty like snippets where they kind of like slide it into our children's shows, it's in there in such a way that essentially they're dictating how we should live. And it's sad that we listen to that.
Mm-hmm. Don't you guys remember when children's shows were apolitical?
I remember when children's shows were children's shows.
Well, yeah, so that's what I mean is like they weren't political. Like Sesame Street was really just about the alphabet and numbers and don't throw rocks at people because that's bad.
Right.
Or whatever
right.
whatever the lesson for the day was.
But
now, like every piece of programming, it seems like has an agenda.
Right.
So.
Right. And it's geared towards our children, which is scary.
Yeah.
Because, they can't teach us how to change because, what's that old saying? You can't teach old dogs new tricks, but you can start with the pups.
Sure.
And they start with the kids, and by the time the kids end up our age, it's something completely different. And it's something that's molded completely different. And I think what defines the new normals, and I will say this for our closing, what defines the normals now is ourselves. That it should be the utmost important part. Not Hollywood, not social media, not, politics, but ourselves. What we define as normal. If you think that the new normal is going out and running somebody over with your car because they wouldn't get out of the road, God bless you. And I say that to say, like, when it comes to how you treat other people is how you're going to end up being treated. What's the golden rule? Treat others as you want to be treated. If you think that a way to help society get better is going out and holding a door for somebody, paying for somebody's coffee, legitimately saying thank you or please and actually meaning it, then I think that's going to help us later on. But it has to come to that universal decision as a group or as a society, as a people, for us to say, this is the change and this is what's going to happen, and for us to make it happen. I think we've done just about as much as we can for tonight.
Yeah.
I do enjoy this, guys. Again, for all of our listeners, thank you so much. It doesn't matter how many guys tune into this, and I do want to say also, because this will get updated and it will get posted after Sunday. A very, very special happy Mother's Day to all of our mothers that are out there. Mother's Day is this coming Sunday. I know by the time you guys hear this, it'll already be too late. I hope you got your moms really good gifts. I'm still thinking of what to get my wife for Mother's Day.
I have nothing figured out for my mom. I got to figure that out. Every other day, people are like, Mother's Day's coming up. And I'm like, oh, thanks for saying that. I forgot again.
Yeah.
Like every day I forget.
Yeah. It's just, you don't think about it.
I got her a gift card. And by the time this goes out, she'll already have it. So
Hey, there you go. There you go.
So I'm the only person here who's bad. All right, that's fine.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
okay.
So if you have any ideas, send them to Noah, and maybe he'll be able to catch up on them.
And you have no way of contacting me, so good
You
luck
have
with
no
that.
way of contacting us yet.
and you won't even know he needs help until after Mother's Day. So
That's very true.
good luck, Noah.
This has been the most meta ending to a podcast ever.
Again, thank you, everybody. We look forward to seeing you or listening to you, having you listen to us again. I'll get that part right at some point. But thank you all once again. Have a great night and enjoy.